Firstly, to open up with you, mate, love to have you back. Do drop out of the top 4, despite Aston Villa not even kicking a ball after conceding 4 at Newcastle United. This is Spurs' worst defeat since the 6-1 at St James's Park almost a year ago. And look, I know the fact that, just to put some context behind it, Spurs are still 7 points better off compared to last season after 32 games. We know there's a progression route under Ange, and we don't get away from that. But again, such a bad day at the office, very similarly to Craven Cottage. How do you try and find some kind of perspective as to that display in such an important game to Spurs and even bigger ones on the horizon, Macca?
Well, even I cannot dress that up. Even I cannot defend what I saw today. And again, I will caveat all that by saying I was watching it on my phone in transit. So forgive me if my analysis is a little bit off today. The Blue Book definitely hasn't been updated from my side, but I'll leave Pat to sort that bit out. Well, it was absolutely shocking. Shocking performance. I think we had 2 shots on target. I'm sure we'll get into that. But, I mean, do you know what really annoys me the most is that it was the basic rules, if you like, of football, of being a professional athlete, which is all they did, in my opinion, was they pressed us hard and they pressed us high, and they just had miles more energy, miles more effort.
You know what, Craig? I want to bring you in. Look, we've been comprehensively beaten. Some will describe that as the worst performance of the season. Lots of big issues across the team. And, we know we've got the hardest run of the season still to come. But, Cracks, I want to ask you about Ange. And look, I think it's fair to say we always try and find a balance here on the show. We've always tried to do that in the last 7 or 8 years of doing the show. But after the game, we had a load of influx of messages. And look, whilst there's no doubt about it, we've loved the way Ange has transformed this football club in the space of 8 or 9 months. You raised concerns, Cracks, on some of the away day performances that can we continue to play the same way and not have any variation or flexibility of tactics? And I think, just so everyone understands my point in this, I love Ange. I think he's transformed the football club. But I think, it's a lot different to playing in Japan, in Scotland, in Australia, to the Premier League. The Premier League has some of the best teams, the best coaches, the best players, the best tacticians, the best set-piece coaches. And ultimately, if you are a couple of % off it, they will work you out. And I have to say with Tottenham, there's been this element where for a while, we know we haven't been playing our ultimate maximum. That's down to a lot, I believe, of the opposition working us out. But at the same time, look, I think we all agree with Ange. It's a progression. It's a journey. But, Cracks, how concerned are you by really a lack of any tactical flexibility in this system?
You say Ange has transformed us. Ange has said a lot of the right things. Transformed us? I don't know. I mean, we was in an absolute pitch darkness under Conte, and if somebody likes a match, then that's welcome, isn't it? There's a flicker of light for a few moments, but what we need is a floodlight. And honestly, Rick, I'm not sure if Ange is that man. I'm really not sure if he is that man. I know that on social media, if you don't say the right things, you might well get hammered for it. Absolutely hammered. But you know me, Rick, I don't care what people think. And I have to start questioning if Ange is actually that person to take us forward. Unless he changes, or unless there is some change in the personnel that we've got to be able to facilitate the way that he plays. Because, look, I want to caveat all this with Ange Postecoglou, the man, I absolutely love. I absolutely love him. He is a wonderful person. You can just tell he's a proper football person. He's a proper person away from football. But if he's not going to mix things up a little bit and change tactics a bit when needed, he's just going to get absolutely tonked week in, week out in certain games. He is absolutely going to get found out. And, he's told us he's not for changing. Now, he's managed in Australia, but he managed nigh on an Australian Man City. He managed in Japan, and he managed a Japanese Man City. He went to Scotland and managed Celtic, who are kind of the Man City of Scotland. Now he comes to the Premier League. Rick, everybody, it is levels and levels above most other leagues around the world with what you've got to be, who you've got to be, how you've got to play, how you've got to change, tailor for different games. And if he's not prepared to bend and flex a little bit with how he plays, with what he's got, this is what this is what we're going to get. Because look, we lost to Wolves back in November 2-1. We got dipped at the end at home, didn't we? And after the game, Gary O'Neill came on with Sky or TNT Sport, whoever it was. He came on and he actually told everybody, not just the people in the studio, he told the general public in an interview, this is what I'd done to beat Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham. He gave the blueprint. Now, roll forward to February, he'd done exactly the same thing against us at home and won 2-1 again by doing what he said that he was, how he's going to play in November. So this is the problem I've got, Rick. I watched today on beIN Sport, and I don't know, apologies to beIN Sports, whoever it was as co-coms, and they turned around and they said, Eddie Howe today has looked through the blueprint of how you play against Tottenham and just read the manual. He's read the manual and done that today. It was like he knew exactly what everybody was going to do today, what every player would do, how we would have our set plays, our patterns of play, etc., etc. And he just set them up to counter it and wallop 4-0. So, yeah, it's tough, Rick. I don't think the club's buying Ange the players that he needs to be able to play the way he does, and Ange isn't for playing in any other way. So I think we're in trouble. I do think we're in trouble. I think we was in trouble against Sheffield United. We was in trouble against Everton. We was in trouble against Brighton. We lost twice to Wolves. We've lost today to Newcastle. I think we're in trouble. I think the writing is on the wall unless something drastic changes, and that's either personnel or Ange's philosophy. You choose which one you think it will be.
Well, correct. So I can't thank you enough, mate, for real and honest analysis from your perspective. Look, I appreciate
do you know what, Rick? Sorry, it hurts me to say this. It absolutely hurts me. And I know I'll come off of this show and I'll open up my mentions on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I'll have absolutely stacks of abuse. But do you know what, Rick? You know me. I don't care what people have to say. I've just got to say what I think. And I think we're in trouble. I think long term we are in trouble. I think there's a lot of managers out there that could have got us a different result today. Even a narrow loss, but something different to that, because that was we just got smashed off the park. Absolutely smashed. And sorry, it hurts to say it, really hurts to say it, because I love Ange, but I just don't think he's got it in his locker to take us to where we need to go to.
But this is one of the reasons why I didn't want Ange Postecoglou in the summer, because I questioned his tactical ability, and people got onto me. As you saw, people went crazy, and we saw it today. And what did I say in the summer? I said in the big games in the Champions League, away from home, he got battered in every single one of them. Yeah, he played some good football here and there, but he got turned over and found out. And we're getting battered away from home against teams that we should be beating, if we're being honest. If we actually want to finish in the Champions League, Ricky, we should be beating these teams. Fulham away from home, Newcastle today, absolutely schooled. And it's not, again, you know, you can lose a game and this and that, but we got absolutely rolled over. Go on, Ricky.
Can I say one thing to you, Pat? I just want to say one thing. You know, you look at, and I totally agree, look, it's a Newcastle side depleted of injuries, but when you look at the Newcastle team, you know, they've got Bruno Guimaraes in there, They've got Isak, Gordon, they've got Barnes, the front three. This was the first time this season they've been able to field that front three. Yes, maybe outside of that, I mean, Dan Burn, you'd say, again, decent Premier League centre-half. You could argue that a lot of that team is a makeshift team. But I still went into this game knowing they've got 4, 5 or 6 decent players that on their day, they can absolutely do a job on Tottenham. But I think the biggest frustration is, and to let you come back on this, Pat, that with Tottenham in the defence we've had this season, a lot of it has been Tottenham shooting themselves in the foot rather than the opposition. And I think that is the biggest frustration that, you look at the Newcastle team there, and listen, there's some decent forwards in there. Like I said,
Rick, just to interact quickly on that, Rick. But that's been happening for years, way before Ange Postecoglou. It happened under Conte, and happened under Mourinho, happened under other players, like other different men. Eric Dyer, should we blame Eric Dyer? Eric Dyer's not even at the club. But it was Eric Dyer's fault when he, put that own goal in against Newcastle when we lost 1-0 or 2-1 against him right at the end. The 2-2 with the West Ham. People giving away free kicks. Japhet Tanganga getting sent off. Like it happens in football. Obviously, it happens with us all the time. These silly mistakes, these are costing us massively. But equally as well, and somebody said it earlier in the comments alluding back to maybe Pat where you're going, get you back in, and what Crackers has said about Ange is, are the players feeling this now? Because I'm actually really surprised how much we're starting to question the man. He ain't even had a season. He ain't even had a season in charge. And the comments for the people that are on audio are absolutely mental. I'll be honest with you. I do the show week in, week out with you. I absolutely love it. And there's a lot of people in these comments that I've never seen before. And they're coming out and they're saying they're asking for Ange's head. But where were they when we beat Forest the other week, or for example? The reality of the situation, everyone's raw. I am surprised that we're calling out Ange on what we were watching this time last year. But then I'm not surprised because we've just watched what we watched this time last year. Like, what has actually changed? The thing is, to go through that whole change cycle, you have to go through pain. And this is painful, massive. And we've been through so much pain as Spurs fans. We all want the same thing. But the reality is that these mistakes have been happening. Well, ever since I've been doing this pod with you, what's that, 6, 7 years? I've been coming on here, I've been talking about players' mistakes every single time. And today, Van der Ven, he makes mistake after mistake. It was in his head. And who would have thought that of that individual player? You see where I'm coming from? Sorry to interrupt, Rick and Pat, but it's madness.